Hey guys, Viggoman here and welcome back to a new Let's Build series. This is Let's Build Klipstead. This is going to be a Norse/Viking/Nordic inspired town. We're gonna have a few hints of European medieval as well. As usual, we're gonna create our own style and have a lot of fun with that. So currently we're working on the walls of the city walls. We're gonna have several layers of protection here, and that's what we're going to be doing in today's episode. And then later on we're going to work on a lot of cool stuff. There's going to be a massive keep here, great gatehouses and cool buildings and all that stuff, and I'm really looking forward to this. I'm also going to be creating a lore for this city here, as well as I've done with Haven Bay, which was my previous Let's Build. So we're gonna make ourselves a lore here and tie it all together with the rest of the world here, and it's gonna be fun. I'm having some ideas of how I want to do this, but it's not complete yet, so we're gonna get to that later on. But it's gonna be like this Nordic inspired religion, which is going to be like the main religion of this town, and then the architecture, the infrastructure and everything will be built around that. But what I want to have, which is kind of cool, is that to make it so that the people living here now has kind of conquered this town from another civilization and then redone something. So we're gonna have some hints of a different style, a different architecture, but it's gonna be all broken down, and then they have kind of built the new town of Klipstead on top of the old ruins of their own town which they conquered. I think that would be kind of fun, and it would also tie it up nicely with the lore I'm having in my mind. But as I've said, it's not complete, so I'm not going to tell you guys. We're working on the battlements here. As I usually do, I'm just building a lot of wool in the beginning, and then we're gonna mix it in with some stone and make it look really cool in the end here. You can see kind of using a little bit of extra time here, just showing you off the massiveness and the scale of these walls here. It's going to be a big town, and it's going to be so much fun working on this here. There's also going to be a couple of battle towers along the battlements here, and then we're going to have, as I said, several layers of protection. So the first blue wall we're building right now, which is going to be stone in the end, and then we're going to have this nice wooden spikes on it, which you're going to see in just a second. Will be the first kind of tier of protection, and it's not going to be super strong. It's not going to be as defensive as the second layers, and then you have to kind of, to reach the keep of this town, you would have to work your way through all of them. So you're going to see all of that in today's episode here. Then we are working on the design of the wall itself. You can see I'm using brushes to kind of convert all the blue into a stone mix that I want to have here, and then replacing logs and making them spiky on the top. And that's to create this almost like a tribal style, which is kind of what I want to have here. I want these Vikings to be less civilized than the rest of the world, if that makes sense. It's not gonna be Vikings. We're gonna create our own name for them. I'll come back to that later, but for now I just want to build. So these wooden structures is going to make the walls look more terrifying, and also create this like tribal style, which I kind of wanted to have, as we talked about. So that is all. Trying to just keep the whole theme going here, if that makes sense. Because what I want to have is to make it so that this town, these people living here, is not as civilized, as I've said, as the rest of the world, but they just kind of came here and was brutal like the Vikings were, and kind of just conquered this whole town and then started building on the rest of that. So yeah, that's kind of want to kind of imagine here that they're not that great of builders and stuff like that, but they only use the infrastructure and the builds that were already here when they conquered it, and kind of just added some spikes to it to kind of rebuild the wall. So that's kind of my idea here, that they used the ruins of the old wall and then just added spikes to it to make it look more terrifying, and also get a little bit more height to make it more defensive. If that makes any sense at all. And I think in the end it looks really cool when you have all of these spikes here, which are just like wooden logs stuck into the stone ruins, and then kind of tied together. You can see I have some ropes somewhere, and yeah, it creates this really cool tribal and also like this, I don't know, brutal architecture, which I think is really, really cool. And then I'm also using a lot of time changing up the stone, adding slabs and stairs, and just creating everything or making everything look super cool when it comes to the wall structure like that. So now we can see a nice overview of the whole first part of the wall. It's massive, and then you can also see the blue outline, which is where we're going to be building the other parts of this here. Now we can see we're placing in some of the towers here, just using World Edit, because I just made a template and then just pasted it in, and then we're going to change them up a little bit afterwards. That looks super cool. Also getting another nice overview here. You can see that there's a big lake in the back here, and I want to make sure that we kind of use that to our advantage when we're building this town. I want to make it so that the people living in Klipstead are all, or mostly fishermen. We're gonna have some farms around the town as well, but fishing is gonna be a big part of their living and the way they get food. So we're gonna have some boats and make it all like kind of built around this small lake here. It's not a sea, it's just a small lake. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to have, just make it so that we can use that for fishing and stuff. Now we're working on the second tier of the defensive here, defensive walls, and this is where the barracks will be, and also less important but also more important than the residential buildings will be. So this is kind of between the residential area and the royal area, where the keep will be and possibly the cathedral and stuff like that. Here I'm also using the same design, using these logs, spikes, things just stuck into the wall, like the stone wall here, and it creates this really, really cool style here, I think. So overall, it's a cool design, I think, when we have several layers and using the same walls. But for the last tier of the defense here, we're gonna have a more structured and a bigger, more massive wall, built mostly out of stone, but it's gonna keep the image of that it's being a ruin. It's been broken down and then kind of rebuilt again. So we're gonna try to add that as well, but keep it more defensive. So that's something that I think turned out pretty cool in the end here. But first we're going to build this wall here on the side. You can see there's a lot of cool cliffs here around the town, and that's kind of what my kind of inspired me to get the name here. Because Nordic, I'm from Norway, I kind of know how the Nordic language works, alright? So Klipstead is basically, klip is the Norwegian word for a cliff. And stead is the English version of the Norwegian word stad, which is, it sounds very similar, but it's written a little different, and that's a very common way of ending location names. So very many Norwegian towns have stad in the, like, an ending of their name and location name, and that's just a very common way of ending them in Norway. And I think it means something like a state or a place, very, very simple like that. So it's just like based on a Norwegian language, Klipstead. I think it sounds pretty cool, and it flows nicely on the tongue. You can see also now that I'm working on the second or the third tier of defensive, the last tier before the keep itself, and you can see that the wall is much bigger and much more defensive and stronger. And then we're adding this like a little bit worn down crenellation on top, and then we have just some smaller spears kind of stuck into it, just to create this idea of being a little bit more scary, and you don't want to really attack this. That's why we're adding these small spikes in there, and also trying to just make this a small crenellation, but making it look like it's all worn down. So I'm just using that design all over here, and then we're going to do a little bit cooler stuff in the end, where we add towers and also kind of break down the wall a little bit more. So guys, if you are stoked and inspired for this project here, make sure to leave a like down below, and if you haven't already, subscribe to get the rest of this Let's Build here. And as usual, I love to get your guys' feedback on this. So make sure to go down there in the comment section and just tell me whatever you feel about this project here. What I should implement, what I should not implement perhaps, and maybe just post me some pictures of styles and buildings. You can see in the back now of the screen there's a big colorful mess, and that is going to be the main keep. I'm planning on how I want to do that, and that's going to be another episode, not too long. I think I'm going to do the walls first in this episode, and then we're going to do the gates, the 3 gates house after that. And you can see we're working on the battle towers of this upper area here, and they're more defensive than the one on the bottom, and it looks super nice. I think it kind of goes from being a square into a circular tower, and I really like how that looks. And it's just nicely built into the wall here. Now we can get a nicer view of the broken down crenellation, which I talked about, and the massive castle wall itself. You can also see that I'm tearing down the wall a little bit more and then kind of adding this wooden structure just to, yeah, like a temporary walkway like that. So overall, a really cool design. So guys, as I've said, if you like this, make sure to go down there and leave a like. And that's pretty much all I got time for here. We're building another small battle tower here in the end, and that's the final build for today's episode. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed. If so, make sure to smack that like button, and if you haven't done it already, make sure to subscribe. It's been Viggoman, and I'm out.